Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. As always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he is the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter, oracle scriptures and writings that came on the continent of Africa thousands of years before any organized religion. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my Black conscious family, hotep. To my people in the streets, what's good with you? And to our enemies who are constantly trying to cause issues and problems with the advancement and progress of our people. You're welcome on this platform also. But when you go back to report to whoever you're reporting to, make sure you let them know that Black people is on the rise in 2019. And the Hour of Power is going to keep doing what we do to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people with the permission of the Most High, who is backing us. All we have to do is know who we are, accept who we are, and work together, and we will solve our problems almost overnight. I greet everyone in words of peace again. Assalamu alaikum. Peace to all the beautiful queens and whoever else is logging on. Before I get into this message, won't be long tonight. I know people are with their families and traveling, different things like that. But I think this is a very important message. On February the 2nd, 2019, at Championship Community Center, which is located here in York, PA, at 459 West King Street, the Black Collective, I have what they call Saturday Reading Academy. Saturday Reading Academy, which is going to help our youth with reading and comprehension. It's going to be Afrocentric based. So that's Saturday, February the 2nd, 2019, at the newly opened Championship Community Center, 459 West King Street, and that'll be between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Now, initially they said it would be for grades 3 through 5, but I just came from a meeting with the Black Collective. They were talking about some other issues. They said if the children come, just let them come. We will be equipped to help any of our youth with reading and comprehension. The academy it'll be culturally based. They'll have different things there to help them with their reading skills, written materials, technology, and other Afrocentric based activities to help your child develop positive self-confidence along with rounded reading and comprehension skills. I don't even need to go in debt about the need for this. My boys are on reading levels. Actually, one of my boys is almost in gifted classes, but I am still going to take them to this group. Now, normally, Alafia's teaching group, which I help out with, is at Bonnie Grimes Gym during the same time. I already got their permission. We are going to join on with them, and God willing, I'm going to bring my youth group from Bonnie Grimes Gym over to the Championship Community Center to participate with this Black Collective Reading Academy, which starts February the 2nd during Black History Month. We got to work together. It isn't about me or any individual. It's about working together. But until then, if you're in the area here in PA, we have our own youth group at Bonnie Grimes Gym between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. every Saturday at Bonnie Grimes Gym. We have snacks for them and educational programs to help them out. So again, that's the Black Collective Reading Academy, starting February the 2nd, running through March the 9th at Championship Community Center, helping them with reading, writing, and comprehension. We desperately need that. And the reason why they're not shutting it off is because we have some youth, unfortunately, that are in 7th and 8th grade, even though it says it's between the ages of 3rd and 5th grade. We have children in 7th and 8th grade only reading on a 2nd and 3rd grade level. We're trying to correct that. So bring the youth through if you're in the area. Of course, we have the Hour of Power every Wednesday between the hours of 8 p.m. on Channel 16 Local Access TV if you're here in New York, and then streaming live on Facebook. That's every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And we'll have our first guest. I'm not going to reveal that right now. On January the 2nd. This one here, it's called The Crowning Moment of Black History Month. Mark it down on your calendar. Saturday, February the 16th at 12 p.m. 6 cities hosted by the Hour of Power is going to meet at 1601 East North Avenue, better known as the Blacks and Wax Museum. We did a community tour there back in October, and it was absolutely magnificent. So we're going to make a grand return there. So the crowning moment of Black History Month, Saturday, February the 16th. Arrive at the Blacks and Wax Museum, 12 p.m. sharp, so the Hour of Power can get you in at a group rate. I need to start working on that. Saturday, February 16th. At 12 p.m., 1601 East North Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland, a 6-city family reunion. Hopefully Durham, North Carolina, Philadelphia, PA, Lancaster, Reading, York, Baltimore. We all going to try to bring it together and meet at the Blacks and Wax Museum, a place called the Grub Factory. Hopefully it's going to supply catered food at a real good cost, but they got good, healthy food. So that's Saturday, February 16th. The crowning moment of Black History Month. Could you imagine that? 6 cities, people who don't even know each other during Black History Month coming together to learn our true history at the Blacks and Wax Museum. I have the flyer on my Facebook page. If you want a personal flyer, I can email it to you or inbox it to you. Please try to make it or encourage others to come. And this is sponsored by the Hour of Power, February 16th, 2019 at the Blacks and Wax Museum. Come learn about your true history. Now, the other day I did David Walker's Appeal Part 1. David Walker's Appeal Part 1. I'm going to do a quick review, but this is a brother, one of our ancestors, that needs to be resurrected in a physical form. I was talking to some people tonight because I was at a meeting with the Black Collective, and I was telling them about the podcast I was about to do, and many of them never even heard of David Walker, never even heard of him. A brother, Mr. Woodyard, said on my calendar, yes, sir, brother, we would love for you to come as one of our elders and share your knowledge. But I was sharing what I was going to do tonight with them and others, and many of them never even heard of our brother. This brother is one of the first to resist the evils of slavery, but in written form. Many have spoke out against slavery, but to put it in a written form, which we know now is David Walker's Appeal. Get this book. He was one of the first to put it in written form. And again, just for review for those who don't know David Walker or missed the first one, he was born in 1785 in Wilmington, North Carolina. I just moved from that area. I was in Durham, North Carolina, which is maybe about an hour and a half from Wilmington. He was born there in 1785. Not much is known about his family, but what we do know is his father was born into slavery, but his mother was free. The law in North Carolina at that time was if your mother was born free, then the children were born free. So fortunately for his own safety and well-being and for us coming after him, David Walker was born a free man. Somehow him and his mother moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where he became a businessman. He used to sell clothing. And in 1827, the first African-American news journal was opened called the Freedom Journal. He was a writer for that newspaper, and that newspaper ran from 1827 to 1829. He was into politics, but the politics in the form of building up our people. Again, he was a writer, a businessman, a Pan-Africanist, and a staunch abolitionist against slavery. It is believed that he was working on what we know now is David Walker's appeal for at least 10 years, doing research and writing before he came out with his appeal in 1830. That's when he came out with David Walker's appeal. And with this appeal, it has 4 different parts and 10 points. And I went over those points the other night, so you can go back on part 1 and look up the points. But the 4 sections that he covers in this book is absolutely deep, and that's what I want to expound on tonight. Part 1, or Article 1 as he called it, is called Our Wretchedness and Consequence of Slavery. Our Wretchedness and Consequence of Slavery. But let me back up on the 10 points, but I'm not going to read all 10 for a lack of time. Some of the points in his appeal, remember this is David Walker's appeal, one of them was the avoidable judgment of a just God would bring upon white American nation unless they repent and give up their evil ways and oppression. So that was one of the bullet points of his appeal, meaning David Walker's appeal. The unavoidable judgment of a just God will bring upon white America and the nation unless they repent for their evil ways and injustice. Another bullet point was the imperative for black people to face their own complicity in their oppression and the need for them to end the complicity through resistance of every way possible, including the path of armed struggle. So he did implore black people to bear arms to get out of their oppression. Another bullet point, the need for Protestant Christian religious ungirding of the black struggle for justice. So what he was saying with that was, for those who were holding slaves, how can you call yourself Christian and participate in such an evil act as Christianity? I mean, he was throwing some left hooks and jabs at the same time, and those who were free, who called themselves Christian. How can you watch your brother and sister be punished like this, call yourself a follower of Christ, and stand by and do nothing? We're going to talk more about that. Those were the main points in his appeal. Now, the 4 points or articles in his appeal, I started it. Article 1, Our Wretchedness and the Consequence of Slavery. He forcefully condemns the brutalities of slavery, with the responsibility on the slave owners for reducing Africans to a people less than a people, and he adamantly refuted Thomas Jefferson's Notes on Virginia. Thomas Jefferson's Notes on Virginia was one of the most popular books back in the 1800s, where Thomas Jefferson, meaning the former president, where he attempts to justify slavery. You ask people, well, what's in or what is the Notes on Virginia? Most people will know nothing about it. But as we know, Thomas Jefferson, even though he was a president, he owned slaves, and so did George Washington. So in this book, Notes on Virginia, of course, Thomas Jefferson came before David Walker. Remember, David Walker came out with this appeal in 1830 with this book called Notes on Virginia, which was a very popular book. He tries to justify slavery, saying blacks are inferior to whites, and maybe they should just go off to another society because we can't peacefully exist. But he said we were inferior to them. David Walker believed in all manner of social relations and self-reliance. He felt that the intellectual initiative was very important in a political struggle. So he was into politics, but for the upliftment of our people. And again, he had a staunch stance against Thomas Jefferson's notes on Virginia. Referring to the future responsibility of black scholars, he offered a prophetic comment. The Lord shall raise up colored historians in succeeding generations to present the crimes of this nation in the gazing world. So that was Article 1. Article 2, in David Walker's appeal, is called Our Wretchedness and Consequence of Ignorance. Our wretchedness and consequence and ignorance. In this, Mr. Walker, David Walker, develops an eloquent discourse on the historic role of Africa in the formation of the beginning civilization in the ancient world. He calls upon the brethren to realize that they are kept in ignorance and miseducated as a necessary function of their own bondage. The ignorance blinds the mind to the vision of freedom. Walker's perceptive views are reincarnated by the modern Caribbean scholar Timothy Childer in his essay, The Basis of African Culture. So in Article 2, he said it's called The Wretchedness in the Consequence of Ignorance. Isn't that still going on today? So that is my point in doing part 2. So we laid out the bullet points in part 1 with the hour power of David Walker's appeal. I just gave you some of the bullet points, the 10 bullet points of the meat and potatoes of David Walker's appeal. And we went over the 4 sections, which I'm going over now. But I want to show you, if David Walker was here today, what's the difference of when he came out with this appeal in 1830 and what's going on now. So again, the first one was, the first article was, I lost my place here. Oh, Our Wretchedness and Consequence of Slavery, where he condemned the brutality of slavery, and someone who's supposed to be a leader in our community, meaning Thomas Jefferson. Well, what's the difference now? We have people in office, people in high places, judges still maybe not going along with chattel slavery. They would do it if they could get away with it. But the mental slavery, the prison system. How about that? Did you know just 2 months ago, this man, and I forgot to get his name, but he was like not a correction officer, but he was in the prison complex, and he was responsible for bringing those in who was facing charges. Do you know he made them wear a t-shirt that was speaking out against Colin Kaepernick? It was called, the t-shirt said, just do it. And he was mocking Colin Kaepernick, speaking out against the system, and made these inmates who he was bringing into the criminal justice system wear this t-shirt said, just do it, mocking Colin Kaepernick. I think this happened in Arkansas. So we still have those who are supposed to be in high places supporting the mistreatment of African and African American people. Really, we're African, but I just use that as a point of reference. Now we're on Our Wretchedness and Consequence of Ignorance, talking about our role as being Africans in Africans' role in the civilization of this country. Well, that's still going on. There's no real structured Black history program in most states in the United States. It's a voluntary, to my knowledge, course that you take. Many of us have went through school and have not known anything about Black history, and wasn't even a requirement. And the Black history classes that we do take, at least from my experience in talking to others, are very watered down. The same old Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, maybe a little bit of Harriet Tubman. But that's it. So Article 2 of David Walker's appeal, which came out in 1830, he talked about our wretchedness and consequence of ignorance. Well, here we are in almost 2019, and our wretchedness and consequence of ignorance still exists and persists by the school system. But the solution to that is we educate ourselves. Hence is why the Hour of Power is sponsoring a grand return to the Blacks and Wax Museum Saturday, February 16th, 2019. Going to the Blacks and Wax Museum in 2019, not just for those in this local area. Hopefully 6 cities will participate to counter what our dear brother said in his appeal, our wretchedness and consequence of ignorance. There is no longer any excuse for us not to know our history. And we must teach our children their proper history, because the school system is not going to do it. And if there is some kind of Black history class in the school system in America, most of the time it's very watered down. They pick up at slavery and then move forward. It shouldn't be called Black history. Really, it should be called African history, talking about the 33 dynasties, the pyramids that we built, and the civilizations that we started in Africa. So it shouldn't be called Black history. That's a trick within itself. It should be called African history, moving into Black history. So that was Article 2 of, I'm going to keep on showing it, David Walker's appeal. Look it up. An ancestor who has almost been forgotten, but the Hour of Power is not going to let his spirit die. No way. Article 3 of David Walker's appeal is our wretchedness in consequence to preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. Whoa, boy. I'm going to say it again. We're talking about David Walker's appeal. Look him up. Article 3, we've already went over Article 1 and 2. Article 3 is our wretchedness in consequence to preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. In his appeal, David Walker's appeal, he talks about the religious hypocrisy of those who condone slavery while proclaiming the blessings of Christianity. He destructs the claim of the moral virtue of those who trade slaves and profess to be devout Christians. He points out, indeed, the way in which religion was and conducted by Europeans and their descendants. One might believe it was a plan fabricated by themselves of the devils to oppress us. He warns that Europeans will have an answer at judgment for their deeds. So, in Article 3, our wretchedness in consequence of preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ, it is very clear cut. This is why this man was so dangerous. And going back, they had a $10,000 bounty on David Walker's head in states that he didn't even live in. Georgia was one of them that put up $10,000, said we'll take him dead or alive, because his appeal was spreading so much and he was hitting from so many different angles: spirituality, political, social, and our history. But this one is really a heavy hitter: our wretchedness in consequence of the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. So he was saying, because this country was built on Christian values, even though they don't practice it, that's why he has this article in his book. He said, how can you say that you're a Christian following the religion of Christianity and you're trading human bodies? And the evil and the brutality of slavery. He said, how can you call yourself Christian and you're trading human bodies and treating these people is less than an animal? So this again was called our wretchedness and consequence to the preachers of the religion of Christianity. But he didn't stop there. He also called out Black Christians or preachers who were free, because every Black person, especially in Boston, Massachusetts, wasn't enslaved in chattel slavery. They were free like him. He was born free because his mother was free. So he said to them also, how can you call yourself Christian or a preacher and you watch the destruction and the extermination and the genocide of your people, and you say you're following Jesus Christ, a man who cared about people, right? Who came to free people? Do you think he would be okay with sitting by and watching such an atrocious act which he's talking about here is slavery, and then you call yourself a follower of Christ. So the purpose of part 2 is reviewing David Walker's appeal, but also seeing how it applies and impacts us today. So I did a little research. It is hundreds. I couldn't even get a count because when I was doing my research, I kind of lost my patience. A megachurch, and I'm not attacking any individual, any church, and I'm certainly not attacking Christianity. All you got to do is listen to Brother Sharif and listen to the Hour of Power. I open up every talk that I do, whether it's my TV show or these podcasts, and I give salutations of peace to almost every religion or spiritual background that you have. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. I greet everyone, but the truth is the truth. And I'm only repeating what David Walker, our great ancestor, said. He said, our wretchedness in consequence to the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. So I did a little research. There are a mega church. A mega church is any church that has 2,000 or more members. I'm going to say that again. A mega church here in the United States, I don't know what they consider it anywhere else, but I imagine the standard is the same. A mega church is any church that has 2,000 members or more. Further research, and I got this information from the Hartford Institute. The Hartford Institute has a database, and it does a scholarly study of megachurches. Okay, so the Hartford Institute said a megachurch is any church with 2,000 members or more. They said it's at least 50 churches in the United States, megachurches with 10,000 to 47,000 members. Now they even have a thing called giga churches, which is a church with 10,000 or more members. But let me repeat this. A mega church, and listen to the numbers. And many of us have been to church, so we know the donations about. And I have information on about what the black church alone has donated. But we're talking about humankind here. A mega church is any church 2,000 members or more. According to the Hartford Institute, their study says that there's at least 50 megachurches in America that has anywhere between 10,000 and 47,000 members. And that isn't just people sitting actually in the congregation. That includes onlookers. Now you can attend church, so to speak, via the internet. You know, you just get on your laptop and type in T.D. Jakes, Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, whoever, and it's like you're there virtually. Giga churches now, 10,000 members or more. Now, I don't know how many of those churches are black churches, but we know, and I'm not picking on anyone, I'm just giving the facts. We know about T.D. Jakes. He has a mega church in Dallas. Creflo Dollar, Pastor Eddie Long, he's no longer with us. So I don't know how many of these churches are black mega churches, but it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. Go in I believe like the southeast part of D.C. alone, and you see all these churches. Go in any upper middle class city and you'll see it. What would David Walker say about their participation or lack of it in the suffering of African people today? Now, David Walker's appeal was talking about chattel slavery, speaking out. He was one of the first in written form to speak out against chattel slavery. Hence is where we get David Walker's appeal. But we already know what we're going through these days. The prison system, anything that's good for us, black people come in last, and anything that's bad for us, we come in first. That's slavery. It's just a mental slavery. So my question is, if I may, speak for my brother, David Walker, who they assassinated. On my birthday in 1830, June 18th, which the day I was born, in 1830, our brother David Walker was found dead on his front porch. And they say he died from some illness or something. But we know they assassinated him. Hell, they had a $10,000 hit or bounty out on his head in states that he didn't even live in. All right? So my question is, if I may speak for our brother, what would he say about Article 3 of his appeal, our wretchedness and consequence to the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ? Now we have those like Pastor Jamal Bryant, Jeremiah Wright, right? Excuse me if I'm missing some, Geno Jennings in Philadelphia, our good brother Adrian Boxley right here in York. We do have some Christian pastors who will speak up about the suffering of our people right now, not in slavery time, right now. But 50 churches with 10,000 to 47,000 members or more. What has Joel Osteen said about police brutality? I'll wait. What has Joyce Meyer? And if I'm wrong, correct me. Inbox me and send me the link where he spoke out or she spoke out or any of these other megachurch pastors have spoke out. What have they said about police brutality, the slaughter of black men, women, and children? You remember Tamir Rice? I believe in Milwaukee in 2012, a 12-year-old child bothering no one in a playground by himself. And some cracker calls the cops on him when he wasn't bothering no one. And then another cracker pulls up and within 2 seconds shoots this boy and kills him. What did Joel Osteen say about that? What did Joyce Meyer and T.D. Jakes and whoever else with this large audience who say that they for our people? Well, they don't say that, but they're supposed to be freeing people. Because if that would happen to a white person, it would be wrong. A child, Sandra Bland, Eric Gardner. What have these megachurches or the leaders of these megachurches said about the suffering, the extermination, and the genocide, the deliberate genocide of our people? What have they said? I'll wait. The wretchedness and the consequence of preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. So our brother David Walker was just asking and appealing a simple question. How can you call yourself a follower of Jesus Christ and participate in the suffering and the deplorable treatment of another human being or human beings? And how can you say you follow in Christ, black pastors or whoever at that time and now, and say nothing, as if it's not even going on? How? Jesus, that I know, was not a friend of the government or those who were in charge at his time, as we know, is the Roman Empire. They were the modern day, the biblical version of the American government. The Roman Empire. That is who sought to kill him. They were nowhere as wicked as the United States government as we know is today. And Jesus was constantly in conflict with them. Hence is why they sought to kill him. He was not friends with them. They tried to bribe him with women and riches to get him to shut his mouth. He wouldn't do it. So they did what they did, however it ended. Because that could be debated. But however it ended, we do know that Jesus was not friends with the government or the authority at that time. Hence is how we further know he had to be a black man. Let's get that straight. He had to be a black man because he was falsely accused, falsely arrested, and attempted to be murdered, if not so, depending on your interpretation of what happened to him, by those in authority. Pontius Pilate knew he was not guilty of the charges. Don't this sound familiar? He knew he wasn't guilty of the charges. He was brought in front of a trumped up court. Don't that sound familiar? Talking about Jesus. The charges were false. He was found guilty and sent to the guillotine. Don't that sound familiar? He had to be a black man. Of course, we already know what Revelation said. Had feet, hair like lamb's wool, feet like burning brass. We know that, but somehow, almost in 2019, some of us are still confused on the identity of Jesus. But just the way he was treated, and then you match that up to what's going on now, he had to be a black man. Had to be. Who else gets treated like this? So David Walker, in his appeal, he's calling out the religious leaders or followers and advocates of it at that time. So all I'm doing is humbly speaking in his place now in Article 3, where it says our wretchedness in consequence to the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. How can you call yourself a Christian and deal in chattel slavery, rape, strip everyone that you have in bondage of their culture, their highways, their byways, their God, rape the men, women, and children. No one is safe. And you call yourself a Christian? And for those of y'all who were free and call yourself a Christian, how can you stand by and watch your brother and sister be put in bondage and treat yourself this way, knowing and you calling yourself a man of God and following Christ, when he himself, meaning Jesus, stood up and against a government that was nowhere near as wicked as the government that we're living in now in 2018 going into 2019. It's just a question. It's just a question. Our wretchedness in consequence to the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. Remember, a megachurch is any church with 2,000 members or more. And I got this information from the Harvard Institute. Okay? The Harvard Institute. Their own study, not mine. And they said it's at least 50 churches in the United States that has 10,000 members, anywhere between 10,000 to 47,000 members. You mean to tell me they can't come together and rid homelessness, whoever the color of the person may be, can't rid the education gap that goes on in the inner city? How about our healthcare issues? Can't build a hospital for our people? 2,000 members and 50 of them, 10,000 to 47,000 members alone? Wow, that's very interesting. The last article in David Walker's appeal is our wretchedness in consequence to colonializing the plan. Our wretchedness in the consequence of colonizing plan. It's a thoughtful exposition in opposition to the objectives of the American colonialization society. Walker revealed that the true motive of this American colonialization society was to secure slavery from disruption by black abolitionists by luring free Africans from the country with offers of doubtful settlement schemes in Africa. From 1829 until his death in 1830, David Walker was the most controversial, most admired black person in America. Shortly after completing the third edition of his appeal, David Walker was found dead near the doorway of his shop on June 18th, 1830. My birthday, by the way. Ironically, just months before his son was born, most people suspected that he was assassinated. However, the power of his message continued to spread, listen to this, among his people. On August 22nd, 1831 in Southampton, Virginia, Nat Turner launched his famous insurrection against slavery. Many believe a testament to Walker's influence. David Walker's appeal. In 1848, the Reverend Henry Highland Garnett republished the second edition of the appeal, combined with his own address to the slaves of the United States, advancing the tradition of radical resistance. Please Google him, Reverend Henry Highland Garnett, a Pan-Africanist based out of New York, I believe Harlem. Reverend Henry Highland Garnett, a Pan-Africanist and an absolute beast when it came for the resistance against slavery. Walker's spiritual father, Marcus Garvey, Paul Robeson, Queen Mother Moore, Malcolm X, Ella Baker, H. Rap Brown, Kwame Ture, Fred Hampton, and Assata Shakur. Modern-day black radicalism has its roots deep in David Walker's construction of political philosophy. The concise clarity which David Walker articulated the human rights of African people at home and abroad sustains the relevance of this document to contemporary readers. David Walker's appeal. The Black perspective. Walker argues the need for conscious awareness among the people, responsibility of self-determination. Isn't that today with Kwanzaa? Kujikajalia, did I say it right? 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and I believe today is self-determination, mutual cooperation, political organization. See, this is the kind of politics that I like. I don't like the kind of politics where someone promises you something. Many of us vote out of having a guilty conscience, but then don't follow up or make anyone responsible for what they said they were going to do. Now, the meeting I went to today with the Black Collective, they are trying to raise up Black members here in your area to run for school board, city council, and on and on and on, but raise someone up who is going to speak up for us and speak about and champion for our interests. I'm okay with that kind of politics and hold them responsible, but build up someone from amongst us that we know and we know for sure is going to speak for us, speak on our interests, and do the best that they can to resolve as many of our interests, not some puppet that's just going to do the old political game that they've been running on us since we were even allowed to vote. And remember, politics means sucking the blood of many. It's a Greek word. Politics means sucking the blood of many. Poly ticks. What does a tick do? It sucks blood. Politics. Politics. I want to make it clear. I don't want no one taking no sound bite of what I'm saying and try to cause division amongst my brothers and sisters, because I just left them, the Black Collective, and it was about political awareness. And my good sister, Tanya Morgan, wonderful sister, and her wonderful husband, James Morgan, they encouraged me to come, and I came, and our good brother and elder, Mr. Kerry Kirkland, and his beautiful wife, Juanita Kirkland, was leading the, and Miss Copeland and Miss Ritter, they were there. Aguina Washington, they were there. So I don't want no one trying to cause, but what they were talking about tonight, raising up one amongst us that's going to speak up for us. And once they get in office, hopefully, speak up for us and champion for us and to resolve our issues so we win. I'm down with that kind of politics. You got the hour of power's backing as long as it rolls like that. So this man was into politics, but for the freedom of our people. So I'm going to wrap up. Raise up our ancestor, our great ancestor, David Walker, with his appeal. Was assassinated in 1830. But with this appeal, which I gave the bullet points in the 4 articles, it is one of the first written forms of resisting slavery. And he came out with this appeal in 1830. Politically, socially, and spiritually, he called out and put a strong stance against the resistance of slavery. Hardly no one knows about him. We can't let him die. We can't let him die. We can't let his work die. And I think I made it clear that his appeal, the 4 articles of his appeal, is still relevant today. Just a question. It's just a question. Article 1, again, is our wretchedness and consequence of slavery. He condemns the brutalities of slavery, especially Thomas Jefferson. And look up this book, Notes on Virginia, one of the most popular books in the 1800s, where he tries to justify slavery, saying that we were inferior to whites. So David Walker in Article 1, our wretchedness and consequence of slavery, he challenges that. Thomas Jefferson, a slave owner. Why do you think that almost 90% of the people in America with the last name Washington or Jefferson are black? Can someone explain that to me? I'm going to say it again, and this is another study that they have done. Almost 90% of the people in America with the last name Washington and Jefferson are black. Just do your own observation. Almost anyone you probably came in contact with the last name of Washington is black. Denzel Washington, Richard Jefferson, the basketball player. The Washington guy from, used to be on Grey's Anatomy, I think he was. Very rare do you see white people with the last name Washington or Jefferson, but yet we only make up 13% of the population. You want to know why? Because George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were raping black women and bearing children. Article 2, our wretchedness and consequence to ignorance. Mr. Walker points out the contribution that Africa and Africans have made to our civilization and to this world. Still to this day, most of our children, slavery, most of our children have no idea who they are and who has made great contributions to this world. Most of our children. Ask, and I'm not making mockery, it's just what it is. You ask the average black child, can you give me one sentence on who Marcus Garvey was? They would be like, who's that? Can you tell me anything about Toussaint Louverture, Queen Anne Nzinga, Shaka Zulu, Boukman Dutty? They'd be like, I don't know. Okay, how about Allen Iverson, Terrell Owens, LeBron James, Todd Gurley? Man, they can run it down. So Article 2, our wretchedness and consequence of ignorance. We have to fix that. Article 3, the most telling one, in my humble opinion, our wretchedness and consequence to the preachers of the religion, our consequence of the preachers of the religion of Jesus Christ. How can you call yourself Christian or a preacher and participate in such an evil act known as slavery? I know what preachers today say, well, it's not slavery today. The hell if it ain't. Our people are being slaughtered in the streets by the police. Now, all police officers, but enough that we know it's an epidemic. It's a report out by the grassroots of something, I forget it's called, and every 28 hours, a black man, woman, or child is murdered by a police officer or someone acting as the police. And you call yourself a follower of the religion of Jesus Christ, and you either participate in this or you say nothing. Our people are suffering, again, in any facet of life. Black people, for the most part, reports from the CDC, anything that's good for us, we come in last, and anything that's bad for us, we come in first. Healthcare, education, housing, we always last. Diabetes, cancer, heart disease, we come in first. So you mean to tell me that any church that has more than 2,000 members is considered a megachurch, and by the Hartford Institute's own research and database, it's at least 50 churches in America that got 10,000 or 47,000 members. They can't put no dent in none of these problems, and some of the mosques too. But I don't know of no mega mosques. Most mosques are in the city, just barely trying to make it. But they're complicit too, because a lot of them turn a blind eye to the suffering of black people. Yeah. Other than the nation under the leadership of Minister Farrakhan, I don't really see too many black mosques in America really stepping out trying to help black people. You want to know why? Because some of them were goddamn Negroes, maybe not their fault, but some kind of Negroism. I ain't talking about the ones falsely accused, so let me make that clear. But some of our brothers have done some Negro stuff that landed them locked up. They get in jail, pick up a little book or something, and then some imam comes along and offers them Islam. That's good. That's good. But here's the problem. They get in there, the same grandmom, the same auntie or mom who was by their side when they was out in the streets acting a fool, now because you've picked up Islam and an Arab version of it of that, now you come out and you forget where you came from. Now you want to refer to your grandmom, your auntie, or whoever raised you as a kafir, which is an Arabic word for disbeliever. You start putting on all this Middle Eastern garb, which is not a requirement to be Muslim. It's not a requirement. The requirement of being Muslim is believing in God, putting God first, and submitting your whole self to him humbly. That's your requirement, along with other things, of being a Muslim. Putting God first, believing he's one, submitting your whole self to him, your prayers, your charity, and making your pilgrimage, which is the 5 pillars. That's your requirement to be Muslim, not all, even this stuff. This is what I choose to do. So they come out and think they something else, and then they forget about the hood that many of them was running the streets and run amok in. And all they want to do is sit in a mosque, and then they forget about their people. That's why you don't see a lot of participation from even the Muslims. So you're not off the hook. It's just we're in a Christian country and they have far more resources and economics than the typical mosque does. But y'all ain't off the hook. Y'all ain't off the hook. Wait a minute, Brother Sharif, I thought you was a Muslim. Yeah, I am. I just strive to be an honest one. Article 4, and the last one, and I'll be done, are wretchedness and consequence to the colonizing plan. This is deep. The American Colonization Society, Walker revealed the true motive of this society was to secure slavery from disruption of black abolitionists, luring free Africans from the country with offers of doubtful settlement schemes in Africa. The scramble for Africa. Everyone is in Africa now. Draining them of their natural resources. Someone wrote something, but I don't understand what that means. Sam. I don't know. If you can put that in English, I will be glad to respond to whatever you're saying, but I can't understand that. Even if you disagree. This is an open forum. The scramble for Africa. How can a continent be minerally rich but economically poor? Well, that's because all the European countries that have went in there before slavery and drained them of their natural resources. We wouldn't have cell phones if it wasn't for all the cobalt in Africa. 67% of the world's gold, 90% of the world's diamond. Why do you think they had that movie Blood Diamonds? Diamonds just in the water, in creeks. Petroleum, gas, rubber, everything you need is on the continent of Africa. So that's what it is. I'm going to finish out. I think I've said enough. Probably got myself in more trouble. But we're going to die anyway. Might as well die being a champion of God and speaking unadulterated truth that we can prove with no limit or time. Okay, you're still speaking in another language. I don't know what that means. But this is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share. Remember, we come on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Channel 16 Local Access TV. If you're here in the local area, or streaming live on Facebook at 8 p.m. on my channel. We'll be picking up, God willing, January the 2nd with a special guest. I will be revealing that in a couple of days who the guests will be on the Hour of Power. And remember, our motto is we are here to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people with unadulterated truth that we can prove with no limit or time. Okay, you said, I guess you're saying we are Muslim. Oh, okay, I think that's what you're saying. Well, you're welcome to the channel. You can inbox me or friend request me if I can help you out with anything. This is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Thank you for those who have tuned in. I know it was a little rough, but if you can prove that anything I said was incorrect or inaccurate, please inbox me so I can correct it. Don't concentrate on the flavor of what I'm saying. Concentrate on the content of what I'm saying. All right? We got to toughen up. We can't be walking around here shaking like leaves on a tree. That's not going to get it done. We must stand up and stand together to get out of this. We ain't getting it alone, and we certainly ain't going to get out of this apart. I leave you in peace as I came. And if you're bold enough, share this message. I leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum. Allahu Akbar, which means God is the greatest.